Community College, August 12th, 2020. Lyle Oxiger, Chair, and I call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is Mr. Jack Retzlaff was previously scheduled to be here today. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend today for personal reasons, so we'll talk to Mr. Retzlaff and present his award at the next meeting that he's able to attend. So we'll dispense with that presentation today. Next, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Consent agenda. We have the minutes of the May board meeting, the June board meeting, the July 20th board retreat, and then several internal policies that were all in our packets that we've all had ample opportunity to read. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved. We have a motion.
Second.
And a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That was for the consent agenda.
To approve the agenda, we can vote on it, but we have motions.
Gary, can you read that? We can take a vote on it.
Did we take a vote on the? Okay, let's finish this one. Do all in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I believe you're correct. I think we forgot to call for a vote on the approval of the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is carried. Okay, we'll continue with public comment. Public comment, we've been dispensing with the new situation with our virtual meetings. We do have opportunity for the public to comment via email. That email address is Board of Trustees at ames.edu. That is monitored, that is checked, and any comments received will be presented at board meeting. Carrie?
And you do not have any email.
Okay. So we just heard that we have received no emails at this time, so we'll continue. Presentations from guests and representatives to the board. The Student Government Association is in our packet. We've all had ample opportunity to read that. The Ames Staff Association is also in our packet. And then Mr. Mark Moody will be presenting a verbal via Zoom Ames Faculty Association. Is he here in person?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing, Chair
There you
Oshinger, Dr. Bornstein?
Mark, welcome.
Thank you. So a little message from our AFA leadership team. They just wanted to say traditionally summer is a time off for most faculty, a respite from business of the academic year and an opportunity to refresh body and mind and prepare for new courses and students in the fall. As we all have experienced during the COVID pandemic, this is not a typical summer. And support faculty, the AFA officers have held weekly meetings unprecedented for the months of June, July, and August. And faculty have attended various virtual town halls within academic affairs. In these Zoom meetings, faculty have shared information, ideas, and questions, participating in the shared governance we value at our college, and above all, have reconnected. While we cannot be together physically, right now, Ames faculty have been actively involved preparing for the fall semester, unlike any other, because it has been very different. And then for community involvement, myself, I actually was just appointed to the Greeley Museum Board. And then for training and professional development, Associate Professor of Anthropology, Sarisa Reynolds, participated in the xenophobia from Japanese American incarceration to immigrant detention today. Virtual teaching hosted by Densho in June of 2020. It was a very powerful experience where participants learned about the history of racism in the U.S. and explored ways which faculty could think and incorporate social justice into the classroom. And then one of our biggest awards, this was the AFA Chosen Staff of the Year, and that was Kathy Glazer. And it's the first ever that we've had here. Kathy has been an e-source librarian at Learning Commons. I know she's helped me out as well too, transitioning the textbooks. She was very surprised at Zoom meetings, so Kathy's been very happy to accept this, and we're going to continue this on. AFA give a Chosen Staff of the Year. And just some people were nominated. We had Patty Campbell, who's Staff Association for Biz Technology. Margaret Dempsey, who's an academic advisor. Greg Driscoll is a media producer. Katie Jansen, who's a program coordinator. Mindy Marshall, she's at the Early College Academy as an advisor. And then Erin, who does it for radiation technology and surgery tech and sterile processing. And then Helen Varel there, who's an instructional lab assistant. And I'll be happy to answer any questions from the board or Dr. Bornstein.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any questions of Mark? None? Okay, I guess you covered it all, Mark.
All right, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for being with us today. Okay, next on the agenda is action items. We have no action items today, so we'll proceed on to item number 8, information items. First of all, item A is our mission and values reaffirmation. I think it's important we do this. We talked about this at our retreat and felt that it was important to the community. And I'll just read a statement here. Relative to current national events, the Ames Community College Board of Trustees reaffirms that Ames Community College welcomes students and employees without exception. As leaders, we are committed to providing a learning environment that provides the knowledge and skills necessary to advance quality of life, economic vitality, and overall success of the diverse communities we serve. We will ensure Ames Community College continues to honor its values and provide a safe and welcoming environment for all students and employees. All of our Ames Community College students and employees are valued members of our community. I think it's important that everyone hears that, and I think the reaffirmation is extremely important, especially, as I said, in light of what's going on today in the changing times. Do you have any comments from other board members?
Well written, well put together. Good job, thank you.
Okay,
You can hold on to that one, sure.
anything else? Okay, well, we're happy to do that. Next is the 20 and 21 board priorities. Dr. Peterson and I were tasked, or we volunteered, or somehow we took care of this. But it is actually kind of a fun exercise, but establishing and making a recommendation for board priorities going forth. They're in your packet. I hope you've all had an opportunity to read them. I think a discussion is appropriate relative to these, because there were a couple of questions as we went through these recommendations. They're basically the same with a couple of additions. I'll just read them and we'll discuss them individually. Item A is continue the growth and improvement of the trustees of Ames Community College. 1, attend local and national conferences. 2, collaborate with other local institutions as opportunities present. And 3, continue board assessments. Any discussion on item A and the methods by which to attain that? You like, you dislike, you want to change, you want to add?
This is Heidi Wendell. I like the letter A. I think that's wonderful. I'm a little nervous on certain conferences. Hopefully, most of them are via Zoom right now. But I definitely would like to assist and participate as much as I can.
Okay. I'm sorry, you're a little concerned about which one?
No, I just want to make sure that attending the local national conferences or via Zoom
Okay.
would be appropriate right now. So
Yeah, and I see that.
Maybe the word participate.
participate, yes.
Maybe we just use the word. Maybe we use the word participate instead of attend.
Okay,
That would
okay,
be-
good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Participate either virtually or in person?
Yes.
Okay.
Carrie, I don't have a notebook here. Thank you. I don't have it in front of me. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to make some notes here too, so, okay. Anything else?
You know, D covers it all. I mean, we want to support best practices for how the college has to run through the pandemic and the COVID scenarios. And I think, you know, they're doing an excellent job. I mean, backflips on almost a month-to-month basis, if not more. That's good. Yeah.
So we're good?
It's clean.
Okay. We actually did put some pretty serious discussion into this, so.
Yes, you did.
We were fairly happy with this when we came out, so.
I gotta congratulate Lyle for doing very well on interpreting all we talked about. At least my notes are pretty shaky.
Well, let's move on to B then. And by the way, if I understand right, these will be, we'll discuss these today, take care of any verbiage or any adjustments or suggestions or whatever, and then these will come up at the next meeting as an action item to be adopted as our
Okay.
board policies going forward. So, B, under board priorities, continue to advocate for Ames Community College locally, statewide, and nationally. And how do we accomplish that? 1, look for and take opportunities to connect with political representatives at all levels. And 2, support Ames CEO and president in maintaining contract lobbying position and its function. So we liked,
I have a question.
oh yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Since I'm new, can you give me an example of how we support Dr. B in maintaining contract lobbying positions in their functions?
And how we support Dr. B?
Yeah, what would we do? What would be an example?
B2.
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 B2, right, yeah. And you're asking for an example of how would we support.
If I'm new, I'd like to know how I can do that.
Just let her know that we do support her and her retaining Tonette in her position as a lobbyist, actually. And I think we talked about the word position, didn't we? Didn't you suggest a different word?
Yeah, we did it. It's contract lobbying position and its function. So really, Heidi, I think it sounds to me like really the board supporting continuing that contract, not necessarily with that lobbyist, but having that kind of. Okay. So to me, how I hear that is the board wants to make sure Ames always has a contract lobbyist.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
That's how I hear it. Okay.
And in reality, when we approve the budget that has
Right.
funding for that contract, that's it.
And that, most often, that's just a legislative one, or it can be a variety of lobbyists. Am I correct? Or
We give one.
we just have that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's on a legislative basis. She keeps track of the state and federal stuff that's.
Right.
Her primary focus is state.
Yeah.
And local for us. And if we have any federal, then we ask her specifically, or more so, it's myself or at this point Chuck both of us together would be reaching out federally, but primarily it's state and local.
Okay.
Well, Timothy has some responsibility in that.
Timothy is no longer. Chuck is now taking over that government affairs
Right.
liaison.
So that's kind of how our conversation went, is we like having Tonette, we like hearing the information, we like getting the legislative updates and everything. And so we simply wanted to say exactly what you heard. We would like you to continue that.
Well, another step that we did talk about, I think, would be, can you hear me?
You need to put on
Okay, let's try this now. Does that help? Anybody? Is that better?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Anyway, we thought that we'd ought to, as a board, if asked, we'd be willing to, like if Dr. B is called to testify, that any of us, particularly the chair, I guess, would be willing to, sit with her and offer support and agreement and so on as she's going through the testimony.
Right.
So,
And we typically get our head nod for that from our contract lobbyist that says, this is coming up. I know that Ames has got an interest in this.
right, yeah.
And usually, as you know, happens very quickly.
That's right, yeah.
Sometimes it's more often than not a 24-hour notice
Or less.
for testifying. So absolutely, that would be great. And just when we get the nod, if it makes some sense for board members to jump down and do that, then that would be great.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Should we have some, articulation there on the details of what is meant by the board continuing to advocate for Ames Community College locally, to give us some detail on, okay, what is the expectation for us in advocating locally?
Are you meeting like what is locally like 70% statewide?
No, what should we be doing as board members to advocate locally?
I remember because when you and it was you and Lyle and I met a year and a half ago, talked about this. Some of those concrete things we had talked about. Well, maybe we ask board members to meet twice a year for coffee with the county commissioner that matches your area or something. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yes, but also advocating to taxpayers locally. It's just not clear, okay, what should I be doing to make sure I'm fulfilling my board role, my trustee role in advocating locally?
Okay.
You're trying to figure out how to meter that behavior? Are you trying to figure out how to judge the volume of that behavior, or is there a quota? Or
No, just some ideas on what we should be doing.
Well, I think our conversation was when we said continue to advocate for Ames Community College locally, statewide, and nationally. We kind of took that other and kind of lumped it into one statement there, and then said, rather than what didn't work very well, quite frankly, was each of us take individual people and try to meet with them. Because a lot of times, that always isn't successful for whatever reason. We don't do it, or they don't get back to us, or there's a multitude of reasons, or schedules get conflicted, they get canceled. So rather than individually do it, just look for opportunities, any and all opportunities to meet with these folks, and just all of us join in the effort to look for those opportunities and take them as they come. That was how our conversation went.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's clear when we're talking about advocating with legislators than it is advocating with, I don't know, local groups, agencies, people.
And I think that's why we said at all levels, so to include local. Go ahead, Heidi.
I was just thinking maybe we should suggest, maybe even after the meeting's over, for 5 minutes, we could all brainstorm and write down specific things that we could, people we could see, or communities or government officials, whatever, and just brainstorm a list. And so we have a list in front of us of potential opportunities for us to meet with. I think that's what you're trying to say is like, who specifically are we supposed to meet with? And we could just brainstorm a list. And if we could find one of those, or 2 or 3 or 4, then that's what we choose to do locally. Am I
Just
correct?
suggested examples.
Yes, that's all.
You know, we talked I think we talked, he says, well, I'd like to go to all the school board meetings, but not promise anything, you know, and just attend and just be a presence there, you know, and just saying, you know, and I think that's good behavior. You know, obviously when we're out in our public meeting environments, you know, do you wear an Ames logo, you know, just to keep people aware of where you're at and who you're there. And it's just like Sarah being, you know, on these different boards, you know, all of our VPs would join hands that way. And I think there's time for that to occur. It would be another good thing. But for us, I think a good list would be plenty. Suggested list.
So in doing your board priorities, do you want to get that specific, or as we go through the year, we want to take an opportunity, if you have an idea like this, to present it to everybody and say, hey, and kind of address it as we go?
Well, I think if there are some suggested ways that we can optimize our effectiveness, that's helpful, because you know, if you don't have a plan, you know, the months slip by and the first thing you know, it's the end of the year. I really didn't do much for advocating for Ames. Now, I talk about the quality of the education, the cost of the education, every time I get a chance to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Is that enough, or should I be doing something more than that?
That's a lot.
Yeah, and we're a volunteer board, and we've all, well, most of us have jobs and everything, so I think we want to be careful what we ask of ourselves. I mean, I don't want to, you know, pile too much on us, too much responsibilities. I think that's just my thought. My thoughts are there, so we are open to whatever you want to make this. So if you have a suggestion specifically that you would like us to change that to, then.
I don't have specific recommendations at this point. It just it seems like we're talking about advocating with legislators, but there's a lot more that, you know, a lot more that we could do, but being careful not to go beyond where I should be advocating, other than say, okay, talk to Dr. Bornstein, or you know, some such recommendation like that.
Dr. B.
Dr. B,
Kind of looking at
you speak.
I forget to. So B1, if you consider language that says look for and take opportunities to connect and advocate with people and groups within our service area, and put a period there. That goes a little broader, I think, in what you were saying, because then it's not just legislators or politicians.
Yeah.
And then B2 gets that legislator political piece in it. And then you have both paths, perhaps, that say, I'm going to look for and take opportunities to connect with organizations, community, and then everyone can define what that is. That may mean you keep doing what you're doing with regard to talking about our programs and how great we are. Mark may sit in school board meetings in the audience. Everyone can choose. I'm just going to use you as an example. This may not be something Heidi's interested in. Heidi might be interested in something else. So does that work for you?
Mhm.
Do we
Okay.
want to wordsmith that, or how do we want to handle it?
What if you would say something like political representatives and or community leaders?
Community leaders.
Our community outreach efforts.
Community leaders in agencies or,
Well, just plain
Yeah,
people.
and you say it at all levels, so that could
Say
be,
in community.
Yeah, right.
I think that would be good, because that would encompass everyone.
Mhm.
yeah.
And if you even want to be more specific, I might even say, using the report out to the using the report out to the community as your talking points, so that we all know that when we're out, we're all speaking to that and not to other things. So I don't know if that,
That would be good to enter that in.
because I know oftentimes you're asking for talking points, and these are the talking points. So that could be,
And maybe just say, follow the report to the community as a guide,
if that helps.
I think it does help.
because there's a lot of information in there. It's all very, very good.
Oh, that's great. That's very good.
Okay? All
What's
right.
the distribution of these? Do like libraries?
You got that, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, C, support the college in accomplishing the strategic plan. That was pretty easy, just assist the CEO, president, as appropriate in updating the community regarding the master plan. Now, the question was there, what master plan? The facilities master plan, or is that the strategic master plan, or both? Because we had it in there last time, and I don't think we were very clear on which one that was. I know when Dr. B suggested one time when approached, she wasn't sure which one of those the board intended to ask for. So what's your pleasure?
Well, could we just put current?
Take out the word that, okay, so
Yeah. could
let me
say-
clarify a little bit. So a year ago, when you put this on your priorities, we had just heard about the facilities master plan, which is under the strategic plan.
Right.
The facilities master plan supports the strategic plan. And we were heading into the Student Commons project, the Welcome Center project, the academic building, and the SimCity over in Windsor. And all the other projects we were heading into, the CDL lot down in Fort Lupton and the greenhouse. So we were heading into all these things. So the thought was, hey, we'll talk in our communities about all these projects that are coming up. So the general understanding was the facilities master plan, because that's what we call it. When we talk about the strategic plan, we say strategic plan. When we talk about the facilities master plan, we say the facilities master plan. But I think what was confusing here is that we all at the board level didn't know if the master plan was the strategic plan, or if the master plan was the facilities master plan, or the academic master plan, or the student affairs master plan. So
It's kind of
I
vague.
think we still need to be specific about which plan we're talking about. And if it's all of them, maybe you don't need number one, maybe you just need the letter C.
I was gonna say, shouldn't it just be strategic plan?
Yeah, I think strategic, this, because the master facilities plan falls under the strategic plan. So it's kind of like it'd be redundant trying to.
So you don't need number one, well, other than we assist you.
Well, we support the college as the president too. So you're good, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Just see.
Okay.
So what was the decision?
Drop one.
Drop one, because the strategic plan is all inclusive,
I think so.
and I agree with that. Okay, we got it. Okay, drop number one, Carrie. Okay. Great job. D,
Very encompassing.
support the CEO president in addressing all the challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic.
I would agree.
That's everything.
And that is everything, and
It's
that
all
is,
encompassing.
Covers the waterfront.
The way to the world.
this discussion was, it was easy to make this decision, to put that in there. But I think it's important to say that our president is extremely busy, maybe 25 hours a day, some days, I'm not too sure. But I think the sentiment was that all of her efforts being directed to supporting, getting this college through this, and helping the community through it, and everything that the college and her are doing deserves our 100% support. And it was just felt that we needed to have this as an absolute priority. So there you have it.
And just if I can say something.
Sure.
I know that this is directed toward the CEO president, but I really want to, again, you all know this, but I want to say it again publicly. It is not me.
Oh, I know.
It is the entire college. It is the cabinet who's worked endless hours. It is the faculty who have worked endless hours. It's the student engagement, student support team. It's the, it's the administrative team. It's everybody that has worked and continues to work endless hours to get us ready for whatever the next phase is. And I know you had mentioned earlier, sort of monthly. It's, it's weekly, it's daily, it's almost impossible to try to quantify what has had to occur to get us to this point, and then even in the future. So thank you for your support as a board to the college. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's totally all hands on deck.
But you are our employee.
That's exactly right.
And
And so it's equally important that everybody out there understands that she, as Dr. Peterson put it, Dr. B is our employee, and in supporting her, we are absolutely supporting everyone that assists Dr. B in getting this incredible job done. So
and I think we allude to that in E.
yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we felt like that the D needs to really be out there standing on its own, because it's such a serious and
So that moves us on then. I think we're all in agreement there. So that moves us on, if I may, Dr. Peterson, to E. Continue looking for opportunities to impress upon our CEO president, faculty, and staff the appreciation of the board and the communities it represents for the incredible job they perform. I think every day that they're out doing this, I think we need to find opportunities to say thank you. We recognize what you're doing. We recognize how hard you're working at it and the sacrifices you're making in order to get this done. So. Are we good with that? Okay. Any other changes you want to go back and look at, Nick? Okay, good.
moving right along.
All right, great job. I think that, I know what everybody's sentiments here, and I think these priorities express them very, very well.
And I'd like to say,
Okay,
Lyle and Ray, thank you for taking the time to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We had a good lunch too. so,
Dr. Peterson, thank you for working with us and
Yeah, well.
getting this done, so.
it was-
Okay, moving on. Item C, ACCT Conference, trustee, Mr. Mark Hout. You are center stage, sir. I think you have a word for us.
Can you hand these out real quick? And I'll read it. You know, I've been to 3 conferences over the last 5 years, and you have a copy of this, don't you?
Yes, I do. Thanks.
And,
I know I have 2.
So the one of the things that I really appreciate, and I'm going to read this, is one, the camaraderie and the amount of participation that occurs at these conferences that goes outside of our little box of trustees here. So I'm trying to figure out a way where we're just not sitting here in our pajamas doing a Zoom meeting at home. Can we be a little bit more communicative and communal and still be best practice in social distancing? So I know I'm going to read this because I don't think it's posted, right? You didn't post it up on the pages. So it's the ACCT Board Zoom Conference Suggestions. I have attended, wait, let me get my speaker up. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
I have attended 3 conferences over the past 5 years. I have found these conferences to be a constant breath of fresh air and understanding of our roles as trustees. This annual immersion has given me depth and perspective to understand the challenges and the successes that not only Ames faces, but community colleges across the nation. Since last spring, our normal engagement across the college has been recalibrated into a virtual management and information access / delivery. A Zoom meeting is no longer a sheltered life experience, but an everyday now for many. I'm very proud on how this college has performed in implementing best practices and keeping all hands on keyboard decks in such a positive, proactive way. All industries have had to adjust and sacrifice convenience. This pandemic has left its hollowing throughout the world, and the convenience of a handshake and a hug leaves us disheartened for at least a moment, if not longer. The ACT conferences are important learning and social events. I believe attendance is enhanced tremendously with post-session conversations and that affirm and expand the learning experiences. I believe it would be to our benefit to figure out a way to enhance our ACCT Zoom conference with dedicated time prior, during, and post each day to ensure we commit time and immerse ourselves explicitly. We would invest roughly the same amount of time, less flights, and possibly overnight stays. Of course, the ambience of staying in Chicago and socially engaging with peers cannot be duplicated exactly. But we can create a more meaningful, can we create a more meaningful environment to learn from? Basically, I have 4 recommendations. I thought, well, let's go to Wyoming. Then I thought, well, maybe not. We can spend the money locally if we're going to spend money outside of our box. So I said, let's set up Zoom meetings daily on campus, maintaining social distance, provide 2 or 3 meals, Zoom tables with laptops, lounge chair conversation areas. Everyone shows up in the morning, has a breakfast, leaves and goes home each night around 6, gets a good night's rest in your own bed. That's option 1. Now, same as above, but we dedicate 2 nights in local hotels, no further than an hour from campus. Limits time travel for 2 members if in Greeley. Provides more time to engage conversation post sessions. This is more like if we went somewhere for a convention. We kind of alienate ourselves there, or, you know. 3 is invite the, this is a reach, invite the cabinet to participate fully or in part. Team engagement will let us listen and understand critical pathways and perspectives. how the management teams have changed since last spring, new roles and areas. One-on-ones are good this way. This is certainly a decision for the president and board chair. You know, we are all trying to get to know this college on a continual basis. And, you know, 4 of us have had the opportunity of having years. You know, Heidi, you're working very hard to get up to speed. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to kind of make things possibly an idea that we can explore. The 4th thing is we do nothing and we just sit in front of our laptops at home and do our Zoom meetings and take notes and have, you know, I guess we could talk over the phone later, you know, and it's just, I'm just trying to figure out a way to make this a little bit more special. And it just seems like, you know, we're really going to the convention on the cheap.
Well, we really are, so.
So
I think, yeah, and is everybody registered here? Heidi, you're not? I think I still am. I know we were registered to go to Chicago, and then they put that off, so I don't know whether, well, why don't you tell us, Carrie, who's still registered for the online?
Okay, so currently we have Chair Oxiger, Trustee Hout, and Trustee O'Hara. Dr. Peterson, you were requesting to be, or just to cancel your registration. Have you thought further about that, or are you still wanting to attend via remote?
Well,
And then to continue, Trustee Wendell, if you would like me to register, just let me know, and I still have time to do that for you. Dr. Bornstein is still registered. So actually you are all still registered. I just need a confirmation from each of you.
so before you make a decision, let me throw something else out here, and I got a little ahead of myself. Another option, Mark, we might throw out here is our next board meeting is just 3 days following the ACCT conference. So maybe possibly we could have an extended work session back here and debrief the conference at that time.
I think that would be a great idea, maybe start half hour earlier on the work session, so we could, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I think we used to try to do that.
We did.
A little period of time where I remember Mark had copious notes that he went through on.
Yeah, Mark's notes take 3 hours. I understand Mark's trying to add a little more to it than that and get some interaction going on, maybe even, I can't speak for
it's a
Mark.
Monday, is it Monday, Tuesday, finishes Wednesday?
5, 6, 7, 8.
4 days.
It's 4 days.
Yeah,
Jeez
4 days.
Louise.
October 5 through 8.
5 through 8. But
Yeah.
what's 8? Is there actual sessions? Because usually the last day is kind of like a,
Yeah, and we don't know all the details yet, but that's what
we
they're
might
saying
want to
is
look
that
at
there'll
that.
be,
I mean,
breakout sessions 5 through.
I mean, even if we was here at the college, I think we could have, you know, something that's convenient. Everybody could go home in the evenings. But if it would have some attention span.
Gene,
I think that interaction, the discussion that we have just is invaluable. And taking time to do that will enhance the whole experience. Personally, I thought I had withdrawn my application, at least for attending in Chicago. I would not be willing to do that under the COVID.
No, we're not going
There isn't an option now.
Yeah.
no,
It's
that's
over.
off. That's off.
Football's over.
But you're talking about for 3 days we would
4 days.
sit, or
4
4 days,
No.
sit here, and how would we select which discussion is?
How is that
sessions
format?
or-
Is it, I guess the format, I don't know if it's just
Please take the top.
The format of what, the conference? What do you
Is it just like it is at 10 o'clock, this Zoom meeting occurs, at 12 o'clock, that Zoom meeting?
Yeah, well, I mean, the format of the conference will be identical to what it is. It'll just be Zoom. There'll be presenters will be up in front talking to a camera and a microphone, and then you will just, there'll be an agenda with all of these different topics, and you will just choose one to attend, and you'll sign up, and then they'll invite you into the room. And then once they invite you into the room, then you accept and you go into that room and you listen to the presentation, and then you come out. I think it's going to be a whole lot harder. You know how a lot of us like to, we're not sure what a session is about. So we'll zip in one and we'll sit there and we'll listen for a while. And if it's something that we're very familiar with or have heard before, or just find it not to be what we thought it was, we may go to another one. And that's very easy at a conference to do. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think you're invited into a room, you'll be there, and that's where you're at.
You don't think you can drop out of that room and go to another room?
I don't think you're going to, no, that would be impossible to monitor. People constantly inviting themselves into a room and letting them in, letting them out. That would be, just having done these meetings, I think that would be an impossible task. So, Dr. B.
So I'm not sure which software support ACT is going to use. So let me just share what we just had an AFIT national conference. I sit on the AFIT executive team, and we had to flip it to online. So each person, for ACCT, each person would need to register. So that's $500 per person. More than likely then what they're going to do is then each person would get its own code.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would probably follow like what Lyle said, is that there'll be keynotes that you know, kind of like Zoom, there'll be keynotes that you participate in, and then you would probably put your code in to whichever breakout sessions you want to go into, or you put your code in as you're entering into the whole Zoom, and then you'd have the breakout sessions, and then there'd be a button to click to join because your code is already in there. Because I don't know which software package, it may be that you enter one and then you're in that breakout session until it's done. Or depending on how they do it, you may be able to go from one to the other, but it depends on what their platform is and how they're going to do this. And they're still building it. So all of this is, you know, like I said in the retreat, you asked for the pencil and I pick it up and I give it to you, and there are 15 million decisions between the time I pick it up and give it to you. This is what this is. I mean, it's
Sure.
So I don't know how to answer your question.
I don't think you can.
I think it's close. I think it's very close to what Lyle was talking about. So even if we were in a place, we kind of all are going to need our own computers, headphones, and all that stuff in space, because you're going to all be attending different things potentially. So that's what I know of what people are doing as right now. They're flipping in as they're learning how to do this. Best I can explain.
That's what I found that was to our advantage, because prior to going to that meetings, you know, Lyle will say, I'm going to do this, well, I'm going to do that. And, you know, we're able to share, you know, all of our interests because we don't have to be all going together at the same one. And that makes it very efficient for time-wise. And we need more information, I think. Keith?
I can't believe that the program is not set.
No,
It's only
They just
2 weeks away.
is there a deadline for registration?
I'm sorry.
They just decided to put it virtually, so they're going to be building it right up.
Yeah, they
I
just
know
made
that
it.
they have a program to work with.
Yes, well, they have a program to work with.
So we can see what workshops
Yes.
are being offered.
What I was saying is I don't know which platform they're going to use, which would shift whether or not how flexible you can be in your
and then finding a platform that has the capacity to handle that many people. I mean, the national coverage is huge. I can't imagine.
It's a,
Yeah, there are others out there, obviously.
Yeah. So,
is there, Terry, is there a deadline for registration?
The last time I spoke to them, she said you could register up to October 4th.
Okay.
for registration,
Yes.
yeah.
Let's,
Who knows when they're gonna have the program? My bet is they're gonna be like we did this morning. They're gonna fire this thing up and they're gonna, I don't know, how many problems are they gonna run into?
They have the program, so you can go on the ACCT website, because
Okay.
the program is set for what it was gonna be in person. Now, there may be some adjustments to that program,
Oh, yeah.
but as far as if you're trying to decide whether or not it's gonna be worth your time based on topics, you can go right now on the ACCT website and see what those topics were or are and make that determination. It just may be altered a bit by the time it moves from that program to
that platform.
that platform.
And I misspoke. I said program and I meant software program or platform. So that was my fault. Yeah. Yeah. So who knows what they might run into. So I don't know.
It's going to be up in the air for a while.
Well, yeah, I think practically for planning right now, I would strongly suggest that we have an extended work session, get through this, see how the conference goes, and bring back the information we have and spend an extended work session.
I gotta say, I really appreciate what
I do too.
because it fits so much value.
Yeah. You can tell when I get closer when I'm.
Okay, you just get so much value of associating with other people from other community colleges. I mean, it's off the cuff and happenstance and everything. In addition to the workshops that we attend, and that, honestly, I think the interaction with others is more valuable than the workshops most of the time, really.
Well,
So,
yeah, but we're not going to be
Good
with them,
job.
we'll be with each other. So let me throw this out. And, at our last retreat, we kind of got away. We took the day and said, this is for the board, and we're going to talk about our priorities and our procedures, and we made it for the board, and we kind of left cabinet and staff out of it. So what Mark is suggesting and getting better acquainted with staff and cabinet, and that at our next retreat, maybe we do something like that at our retreat, come back and add an extra half a day or something like that, and get some of our staff and cabinet in again to speak to us like they have in the past, and maybe extend our retreat by a half a day or a day. I mean, if something like that is important to the board. And that's not to keep us at that point from talking about topics that we've learned at the conference, through the conference presentations, or any other conferences or seminars or whatever we've attended, to have those discussions at our retreat. Especially if we know ahead of time we're gonna plan for it, we can be putting the information together and holding on to it for that purpose. Just a suggestion.
I think that really fits with our priority E, in that we're trying to support the staff and do everything we can to,
Sure.
but we also want to really know what you're doing, kind of thing, which then helps us to give further support or better support or something.
And it looks like, I'm on the website, that it's $349 for virtual.
It's what?
$349, not
For
500.
registration.
So that's nice.
Oh, yeah, for the virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all in, we spend about 20 grand, don't we, on the conference?
Oh, when it's in person and food
Yeah.
and travel and all that?
Or more.
Probably so.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look at Chuck's budget presentation in the packet, the travel is way down.
Good, we're saving the college money. But
We're on the cheap.
So what's consensus? Should we do an extended work session? And then plan
I
for,
would certainly be game to do that. You know, have it structured so that we really get what we need to know and provide what we want them to know. You know, maybe we have a cocktail party. Really get informal.
So you're talking about the time with the cabinet? and
Well, I
everything,
thought that's what we were,
But you're talking about
Oh,
an
you're still-
extended work session,
okay.
which we can do both.
I guess the question that I have is, does everybody want to do this on their own? They want to do it semi-community? And that's the query that I have when I'm posing to the board. I agree with the after the retreat, or, you know, we have another extended work session, because that adds another depth of performance. But do you want to integrate conversation during the conference, or does everybody just want to stay at home and listen to their own Zoom meetings, take their notes, and bring them the following week? So I guess that's the only thing that's the biggest suggestion I got. Other than that, I'm okay with whatever. I'm going to spend the time doing it. I'm just rather, you know, I'm a social person, so it's kind of like, me, it's an event, not just.
so I've never been to one of these before. So it sounds like what you're saying is after you go through a session for the day, there's so much information there. It is well worth the time of sitting with your other board members to talk and discuss.
You'll go through three
Right.
sessions in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they're 40 to 45 minutes. They go like this. There'll be a little bit of conversation at the end, and then we break for lunch. There's an hour and a half for lunch, and you go through around robin 3 or 4 more till the end of the day. And that's how it goes. It's a round robin,
Right.
literally.
There's so much information. It's a perfect time at the end of the day to discuss.
Or at lunch,
Right.
or, you know, and the lunch and the breakfast would be kind of the key, whether we discuss in the afternoon. It's just, I think it becomes more cohesive.
and some people, quite honestly, some people participate in those after the day is done and some people don't. Some people are dead tired and they go to bed. Or whatever. Other people get together and talk. Other people, I mean, it's a night in Chicago. Who knows what you might do? But it's free time, so you're free to do what you want to do. So.
I would suggest, I'm going to look and see if I can attend. I'm going to look at my schedule. Then maybe what we should do, if that's whoever attends, maybe we should all, I don't know if we can get a conference call or meet, or like, it sounds like lunchtime would be the best time to really talk about what has happened. Everyone's not tired yet because it's not the end of the day.
Because they finish up at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, typically, and, you know, it's again, it's just, we're stuck with this. This is kind of just the way we're dealing with it. I'm trying to give it a little more of a pulse. But I'll go with the board. We're dedicating 3 to 4 days here. We're good.
Gene,
I like the idea of doing it on our own at home, but getting together. Yeah, this is turned on.
No, got it off now.
Getting together for an hour and a half at lunchtime in each of those days to bring up things that we think are really worthy afternoon when we met yesterday.
So just doing a conference call?
No, get together for lunch. Have some discussion.
Oh, you mean like go to a place?
That's gonna be hard for.
Well, it's a lot of
it's
travel. You're gonna be-
traveling.
I mean, if you're really participating
No.
in this event during the sessions, about 4.5, 5 hours a day. We have lunch and I mean, if you're really actively pursuing sessions. So it's kind of, if we're gonna dedicate the time and actually attend it, whether it's online or whatever, we try to get as much as we can in, but I don't think this is a rush decision. This is a virtual world we're in right now. I don't think we can think about it for a month. We can make a decision October 4th, my birthday.
Okay. Dr. B.
I think it's great. I think we've got a lot of ideas on the table. What we can't do though is make a last minute decision because we as staff supporting you need time to set things up. So perhaps at our next month's board meeting, y'all can make a decision on what you want to do so that we have a couple weeks to get things set up for you, however you want to do them. That would be awesome.
Okay, Mark?
Well, and Heidi and Dr. Peterson still have to make a decision, it's my understanding, whether they're going to attend or not, because they weren't initially. So now, depending on this decision, and now that it's going virtual, they get to decide whether they're going to attend the virtual. So we may not even have everybody there. It's certainly not a requirement. It's totally optional.
We're pumpkins.
Yes.
Gene and I are going to Pete Morrell's funeral, and
Oh, you're taking off?
I want to thank the college for the last 5-6 months of what they've been doing and are going to be doing. It's a moving target daily, and Gene has the same feelings. We're so appreciative of what everybody's doing. And it's a tough world out there right now. All industries are suffering. It's not just educational industry, it's medical industries, it's to some extent construction industries.
Well, thank you for representing Ames at Mr. Morell's funeral, and wish his family, give him all our best wishes on behalf of Ames Community College. Thank you.
And he said Ames has
Be safe.
a letter to him.
Yeah, we
Unless you gotta use the restroom.
Okay. Well, thank you for your suggestions, Mark.
Actually, I'm going to stop the first.
Yeah, that's all right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, board calendar of events. Carrie, you're up.
The board calendar is simple and quick. All events have been canceled due to COVID. So hence, that is why there was not a calendar in your packet. So you will be updated if things change, but that's where we're at right now.
Okay, any questions for Carrie? Okay, just be advised, we still have a board quorum, Mr. Hout and Trustee Hout and Trustee O'Hare had to leave us for a funeral, so we'll continue with the quorum. Next on the agenda is correspondence. I got to. I would really love to read this to you, and I will. I actually went through this. I had a COVID test the other day, and it was quite the experience. But let me read you this letter from UC Health to Dr. Bornstein. Dear Dr. Bornstein, I just wanted to take the opportunity to give you and your team recognition and a big thank you for partnering with UC Health to help provide COVID-19 testing to the Greeley and Weld County communities. As you know, prior to opening the test site at Ames Community College, residents throughout our area had to travel to other towns for access to testing. The need for a resource closer to home quickly arose. And because you and your team responded so generously and quickly, we were able to work together to bring this important service to our community in record time. We have appreciated working with your team every step of the way. They consistently demonstrated professionalism, compassion, empathy, diligence, flexibility, and teamwork. When any issues arose, they were timely and helpful to make sure the staff and site were safe. The communication was outstanding, with making sure everyone who needed to know was kept in the loop. And yet, due to the nature of the healthcare business, they were respectful of the individual's privacy. It is obvious that you walk the talk with your team, as the respect and positive culture exhibited by you and the leadership team was noted by all of those involved. This is a great atmosphere to work in. We are lucky and blessed to have an organization of your caliber available not only for higher education, but as a community partner. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for supporting the community in a great time of need with the uncharted waters of COVID-19. Stay well. Marilyn Schock, MBA, OTR President of the UC Health Greeley Hospital. That was an awesome letter and very, very well deserved. Thank you, Dr. B, and to all of your team. We appreciate it. We really do. And I got to tell you, I was over there the other day to get my COVID test for a procedure I had. And I just happened to know the gentleman that was running the facility over there, Mr. Beckman. And we had a little visit about it, and he said, without a doubt, he said this is the best work experience he's ever encountered in his life with another organization. He says, this was the absolute Taj Mahal of healthcare facilities for them. It was absolutely set up beautifully. Everything flowed freely. Anytime they needed anything, it was there. At the minute's request, he says they absolutely loved it. With students coming back, they were having to depart. So that was the last weekend they were there. And so they're having to move over to another facility. But he said they absolutely loved it. And everybody there echoed his sentiments and asked that I pass on the workers' appreciation, the people who actually work for Maryland. So thank you from them as well. So great job. And please be sure all of your staff know how much we appreciate them.
I think you just told them.
So well, any of them that are out there, thank you. Next on the agenda, the CEO President's Report. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. B.
Okay, thank you. So this is the time of year where I know we just met in our retreat and wrapped up the last year of the strategic plan when we met with our cabinet. So today what you'll hear from cabinet members are some of the initiatives they're going to be working on this coming year from the strategic plan, just to kind of get your mindset around what to expect as we move forward. And we'll start with Dr. Russ Rothamer, who is going to be on our screen. He's going to cover a couple of strategic plan initiatives, then introduce Jeffrey Adcock, who's our interim executive director of institutional research and assessment. What you may recall, again, earlier this year, this calendar year, we had presented to you that study that was done with Northern Colorado higher education, so with CESU, UNC, Front Range, and we presented comprehensive information about higher ed in Northern Colorado, and we said at that time that, you know, in the next few months we'll be bringing Ames specific information. Well, then COVID hit and we kind of all got a little stunned for a minute. So Jeff is going to present Ames specific information from that study. And it looks like Russ is now teed up, so I will stop talking and hand it over to Dr. Rothamer.
Thank you, Dr. Bornstein, and just do a best practice. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Thank you. So also to continue a theme from the work session that Dr. Weissgaver and Zach introduced with the marketing and recruiting funnel, one of the things that's very important that you'll see throughout the different items from my areas of accountability for the strategic plan is that focus on measures and most importantly on those outcomes and looking at how we can best have the outcomes for those that we serve. So as I kind of talk about each of these, know that that is a specific focus. So when we look at the first one, A, about student access, success, and retention, one of them that we're going to be focusing on is increasing degree attainment by our adult learners, as well as, which is one tactic. And another tactic will be increasing our online student retention, which is another area, especially what we've had to do since March is going to be so important that we've done well. And we need to do even better in serving those learners in that modality. In addition to that, one of the things we'll be focusing on is leading or developing our leading and lagging indicators and benchmarks and setting those targets for our core measures. And again, thinking about those outcomes and making sure that we're seeing that success from our students and our community members. In addition, we'll continue focusing on our faculty training opportunities, and each of these are in that second layer of our strategic plan about internal talent development. Then also, as we think about all of those that we serve, one of the pieces that we've added in our area is re-envisioning the emphasis of our satellite campus locations and really focusing on getting kind of some movement and success, additional successes in those areas. One of the things that's not on the CEO president's goals for the board, but I know we've each year we'll share with you, and it'll be coming up in October. And I wanted to bring it up in addition because Trustee O'Hare asked about it during the work session of our first guest, where he indicated a question about requests for training or education that are currently may not be available for our K-12 partners or business and industry across the areas that we serve. And what I wanted to share with you, what we're also doing with our strategic plan initiatives this year, because it's part of our overall continuous improvement process as well, is creating and updating our academic master plan. And part of that, which we've talked briefly about to the board, and we'll have more of an opportunity in the coming months to share this important piece with you, is our program feasibility process, which we use to identify those potential educational opportunities for our communities, as well as our program review and viability process will be a significant area in which we move forward. But the last thing I wanted to share with you is the last item. It's letter D, the CEO President's goals, and is one of the legs of the stool. And the reason I wanted to take an extra second to share this one is each of the ones that I previously shared, you know, it's not just one area that works on it. We will be partnering with different areas of the college. But this letter D, prepare for institutional assurance report to our accreditation agency, which is the Higher Learning Commission. While it's not specifically a strategic plan item, it is one of those things that's an absolute necessity for our institution for many, many reasons. But what I wanted to highlight, this is actually an initiative that just not one person does or one area does. The whole institution will be engaged in this process because it's really about the continuous improvement of our whole organization and demonstrating to others the success and those things that we provide. And a key date for this one is we actually have a lock date, meaning we have to have everything done and in for the Higher Learning Commission by June 13th of 2022, which means this coming year, in addition to all the other things that my colleagues will share with you and what I've already shared with you, this will be one additional layer of the cake that we're working on. So those are the strategic plan initiatives that I wanted to share. And before I turn it over to Jeff Adcock with Dr. Bornstein's earlier introduction, I'll just take a breath and see if there was any questions I could answer for anyone or information I can provide at a later time you might be interested in.
Any questions of Dr. Rothermer?
Dr. Rothermer, So the item you were talking about was letter D, and you have to have the strategic plan, and so everything ready by June 13th, 2022?
It's actually not the whole strategic plan. It's called the assurance argument,
The assurance, okay.
right, where we demonstrate all the different criteria for
Oh.
accreditation, and we
Okay.
have those listed out.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay,
All right, Mr. Adcock.
Good afternoon, Chair, Trustees, and Dr. B. Just make sure you all can hear me okay?
yeah,
For now.
so far.
Okay, so as Dr. B had pointed out, we shared with you the overall a few months ago. Must be about 6 or 7 months ago now, but we shared with you the overall. And for this particular one, we're looking at specifically Ames Community College and how it relates. I want to first note that take this time to especially thank my team, especially Laura Lewis and Stephanie Chadwick, as they were instrumental in the development of the data set and the report for it. And I want to, out of this slide, I just wanted to make mention that this is only a 1-year slice of time. It's only from 2017 to 2018, that academic year. So as you start hearing some things, your ears may perk up and go, well, we've done things since then. So just keep in mind, this is only a one-year slice of time. The first part of it is the investment analysis, taking a look at it from 3 different perspectives: the student perspective, the taxpayer perspective, and the social perspective. And what does it mean for the community at large? From the student perspective, it was the rate of return that a student gets by achieving their goals here is about 16.8% rate of return. As noted before, over the past 30 years, the average rate of return in the stock market is 9.9%. So we are well and above that rate of return. I wanted to also point out that the overall NOCO, or the Northern Colorado, the other 3 schools, they had a 12.3% rate of return as opposed to our 16.8% rate of return. So clearly, on average, we are doing better than the rest, than all of the other 4 schools combined. From a taxpayer perspective, 1.6 rate of return with an average payback period of 27.3 years. I wanted to kind of point out that taxpayer perspective, it's approximately, for every dollar the taxpayers give us, we return back $1.1. So I guess the overall piece to note there is it's not a negative balance, it's a positive balance, but it does take quite a bit longer to come around. The social perspective is taking a look at things such as the reduce of cost of government, so the reduced of cost of social workers, the reduced cost of unemployment insurance or employment benefits and things like that. But I think the overall perspective here is that the average payback period from just the social perspective is 3.4 years, with a net present value of savings to society of $18.2 million. This next slide I'm going to kind of glance over it, but really the only thing that we have to compare ourselves with the other schools was the head counts. So this next couple of slides deals with what is the percentage, what is our makeup with the rest of all the other three schools. And when you take a look at it, what you find is approximately 12% of the total of all students enrolled, again, during 17-18 academic year. We represent about 12% of all of the students, as opposed to, say, CSU makes up 52% of the students. So what is the economic impact when comparing this with that 12%? If you'll note, I'm keeping this 12% up there so that we can kind of see where we benchmark ourselves, right? So for operational spending, $102 million in spending, which represents 9% of all of the entire NOCO. Yes, it's in red. No, it's not supposed to be in red. It's actually a good thing, right? Because operation spending, we spent less on average per student than other institutions did. In terms of student spending, 7.7 million, 5%, which equates to 5% of the NOCO PCU, which is under, but that's not something that we would typically think as being actually a negative, because typically our students probably don't spend as much as, say, CSU students would. Alumni impact, 383 million, 18% is the benchmark there. So really, our alumni are actually putting forth more than what we would expect them to, being almost 6 percentage points higher than what we would expect. Construction spending, 5%. Again, it's lower than. It doesn't necessarily mean a good thing or a bad thing. The other thing, keep in mind, it was 17, 18. We weren't in our, building a whole bunch of buildings. But overall, $480 million in total spending, with 12% of the NOCO PCU, which rounds out about on par with all things created equal. Ames campus enrollment by composition. So we didn't think it was fair to take a look at it from just a headcount perspective on students. So in trying to compare ourselves with ourselves, let's say within our own campuses, we took a look at it from the full-time equivalent. So really it's a combination of headcount and the number of credits that they take. So it's a little bit better picture. And as you start to take a look at the numbers at the bottom of the screen, you start to realize, Greeley represents about 51% of our entire student body FTE, as opposed to Windsor's 12%. I wanted to note that the other 29%, what that really is online and ECHS and other where the classes are not being held specifically on one of our physical campuses. In light of that, we took a look at the economic impact by campus and looked at that same exact percentage rate. So you'll see the percentages at the top, the Greeley 51, Windsor 12, those are all representatives of the slice of the full-time equivalent each of those campuses puts forward to our total. As you can see, Greeley's 51%, but the total impact's 54%, which is slightly higher than what we would expect. And then you start taking a look at Windsor, right? It represents 12% of all of our credits that are billed, but yet only 3% of the total impact. And you might ask the question, why? Part of the reason most of the reason is alumni. The challenge there is that Windsor is pretty much, number one, equidistant between Loveland and Greeley, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint. The second part is a lot of our programs out of Windsor, they kind of have to go to someplace else in our area to actually get some of the jobs. For example, I don't know Windsor all that well, but I'm pretty sure there isn't a heck of a lot of particular jobs in those areas for those people, and they have to go to other areas within our service area. But then you take a look at, like, for example, Loveland, right? It represents 3%, but yet it has a total impact of 6%, right? So it's slightly higher than what we would expect. And you might ask the question, why? And that is partly because Loveland clearly is in a fairly big and very quickly growing county, as well as Greeley. So the expectation is that they would be slightly higher just because of the alumni, which that's exactly what it shows. Any questions on this slide? Because I just want to kind of stop here because there's quite a bit going on here.
I do have a question, and it's just probably a clarification on the Loveland, where I see the difference that they make up is the 7.5% of alumni. Can you explain to me, or just give me a definition of alumni impact? Is that alumni spending, and is that because there's quite quite a few alumni within the city limits of Loveland?
So the alumni would come from, in this particular case, it's where did these students take their classes, right? It's not necessarily where the students live, but where the students take their classes. So that's kind of part one of this. Part two of this is what alumni means is what are the impacts after they've graduated in terms of additional revenue, you know, salary, property taxes, all those types of things. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the next results is kind of what we've already looked at. You know, overall positive net impact on the regional economy. Initiatives to address most of the opportunities are already in progress. For example, the new buildings, the monuments, the greenhouse that happened in Fort Lupton, and the movement of the CDL, and all these different things have occurred since this time frame. So there's already things in progress that leadership has already set in motion before any of this actually was really shown in the net results. So the next section, or the next time that we do the economic impact survey or the economic impact study, we certainly expect it to be a much different a much different vantage point than we do today. Although we probably won't be doing it for a few years because of the COVID. Economic impact study, the summary. Overall, kind of said it, Windsor, Fort Lupton, below where we would expect. Construction spending is low in Windsor and Fort Lupton, but again, we've already started doing things in certain areas to increase that. Strengths. Operation spending is very close to the FTEs for each of the campus, which is a good thing. And Gridley and Loveland have a greater impact than expected. Questions, comments?
I have a question or a comment. So if I'm looking at this correctly, the operations for Loveland is only 3% at 3.3 million. And I see the student impact, the alumni impact, but it's still creating a $30.9 million impact. So
correct.
That's really good, isn't it?
It's absolutely good. It's clearly almost twice what we would have expected.
Okay. And has that continued from 2018 to 19, or we don't have those numbers in yet?
Those numbers are not in yet. Just wanted to note that, you know, in terms of, you know, this data collection that we did, it was a joint effort between all four schools, and not all four schools are capable of giving the numbers as quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff there. Wow.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Dr. Rothmer, is there anything else before we move on to Chuck Jensen?
I do not have anything else at this time. Thank you.
Okay, super. So Chuck is actually with us in person and just walked in the door with Brad Yoder, our Chief Information Officer, and he's going to share a couple of the strategic plan initiatives and our budget update, and then a very quick grants update.
Chairman, members of the board, working. I'll quickly go through Scott line items for fiscal, and Brad will add in IT, and that'll be our presentation for services for the Scott plan. Scott plan for fiscal and facilities is pretty straightforward. We'll continue on with the facilities plan this year, the construction of the Logan Center, student comment, and also starting on the winter project. We'll also then be focusing on other construction or other maintenance issues on campus. That's line 32, which is a continuation of the program. We're still working on the walking paths on the campuses and the sign program. And those are really tied in with the construction program. As we look at the winter campus and then the work on the Greeley campus, both signage will be part of that program. And then our other strategic goal that's new this year is really financing, it's in the finance and budget area, it's really developing our reportability of our administrative system, Workday, and adding, creating reports and data for users across the college. So that's a really quick synopsis of the projects in admin and facility. So Brad will add some comments on IT, and we can stand for questions on strat plan.
Good afternoon. In line 47, technology, we're going to be updating the phone system, upgrading it, moving it to the cloud. So moving it off premise, and it'll be hosted somewhere else. Adding us a lot more flexibility, as you can understand, now that nowadays you need to be able to work from just about anywhere. So that's going to be a focus. We'll be starting that very shortly. The other project, the other strat plan update I would give is on line 48. Chuck mentioned the ERP, and you hear that over and over now a little bit more. Workday, yeah, the HR and finance pieces are in place, and we're proud to say that the teams that worked on that, HR, finance, and IT, did a great job getting us there. So we're kudos to them. They really did a great job. But we're not done. Now we're starting on the student side. And so for the next 2 years, we're going to be working on migrating all of that student information, all those student processes, admissions, registration, all of that stuff is going to be moving over into Workday as well. So hopefully by the end of 2022, we're going to be completely in Workday, and we can have a ceremony to get rid of the old ERP system that we've had for 22 years.
Questions on strat plan for administrative services? If not,
I have a question.
Trustee Liddell.
For you, Brad, is the moving the telephone system in the cloud or whatever, how long will that take, and when will that be done?
It'll happen fairly quickly, really. We're just now signing contract, and we can move it as quickly as the college can move. Our focus for the first phase is going to be the call centers, so that we get them up and running, and then they can operate anywhere. And then it'll be individual office phones. So we'll migrate those as people are available and can move, but there isn't an urgency to get them done. We can have two systems in parallel at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. Other strat plan questions? If not,
Chuck, well, I'm getting some messages. You'll have to speak louder and closer, maybe not closer to the mic, but just speak louder so the mic can pick you up.
okay.
If you don't mind. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Brad. I'll move on to the budget report. Mr. Chairman, you have before you the report as of June 30th, 2020, and this is the final report for last fiscal year 20, which concluded on June 30th. And I'll go through some highlights. Within the revenue area, again, very strong in our tuition compared to budget. We still are expecting in the state appropriations, we are still expecting the gaming money. So that's why you see it's not at budget yet. And so we'll have that soon from the Gaming Commission. So we anticipate our budget to be fully met on state appropriations for fiscal year 20. Again, strong revenue picture in our local property taxes. Speaking of a few things in the expenditure areas, I think we mentioned it earlier that yes, we have seen a reduction in our travel because we basically stopped travel in March. And so you're seeing that reduction due to that, of course. We also realized, and I don't have an exact number for you, but we did realize utility savings. And so again, bottom line is we continue to have a strong expenditure picture for the year. And to sum it all up for fiscal year 20, we are moving a little over $38 million into our plant fund, which would then be there to, of course, fund our plant fund expenditures, including our facilities plan. So that's a very quick synopsis of fiscal year 20. Again, very strong year. Now we'll be heading into September and such. We'll be talking about fiscal year 21. So stay tuned for that information as I bring that forward in the next number of months. Questions on this budget report?
let's see, in a nutshell, how much money, not that it's a good thing, but how much money did we save under expenditures through travel and utilities? I guess I'm not,
I can pinpoint travel at about 900,000.
I see that.
Utilities, I don't have a specific number on that
Okay.
because that would be included in the operating budget.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, I can, yeah, we can see the difference. Okay.
Just anecdotal, I know Mike had mentioned that in some months our utility bills were, 20% of our previous year's
Right.
months as we
Okay.
shut down systems.
That was my question. Thank you.
Other budget questions? If not, I'll move to the grant report. Thank you. Yeah. Again, we can. You have before you the grant report for the year, and first of all, I want to give a shout out to our TRIO program. We just got notified this week that we got renewed for 5 years in both our TRIO Classic and TRIO STEM. Big shout out to Aaron Prestwich, our vice president, assistant vice president in SICE, and Malone Miller, our grants manager, for the work, them and their teams as they put together the applications for our TRIO. So that's big. That's another 5-year process for both our TRIO programs. So I don't know the exact years that we've had TRIO, but we've had them a lot of years. And so that's very exciting. We've broken this report out into a little different format this year so that the board can kind of see the different activities that we brought. And I'll just highlight those activities of support services in the grants that had money with them. Student support services, enhanced learning experiences, industry training, scholarships, and community assistance. And I think there's detail there for the board to understand some of those activities that are occurring in the revenues grants that we do have. We also wanted to highlight the collaborative partnerships that we have with various institutions, and school districts, and other entities in Northern Colorado. And so again, the details there for you to look at our partnerships that we have. In most instances, we're the educational partner for those programs. The one of note, of course, is our Wayno Center at the Fort Lupton campus. It's a long-standing relationship we've had with the University of Colorado. And again, that's a very dynamic program down there. So again, a little more detail, kind of highlighting some of the great things we do in our grants department. So with that, I'll stand for questions. Any questions of Jeff?
Yeah.
There we go. Who heads up the Office of Grants? Is it you?
Malone Miller.
Okay.
She's the director, and she's the grants manager, and it's a direct report of mine.
Great job. Amazing. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Good to see you all.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Yeah, at least
Thank you, Jeff. So next on our list is Dr. Sarah Weissgaver. She will be joining us on the screen. And she'll be giving us some highlights for this coming year's strategic plan initiatives as well. I'm basically just giving a long introduction to allow for everybody to get in place.
Thank you, Dr. Bornstein.
There she is.
Can everyone hear me okay?
For now.
For now. Okay, I switched up my headset with the hopes that the mic would be a better fit for you all. So I am really excited to say, as I have had the privilege of saying for the last 3 years, welcome to fall semester. August is the most exciting time at Ames, and although services have looked different and enrollment processes looked a little different, I am really happy to say that it's moving forward in a really meaningful way. Just one quick highlight that I would update you all on. I shared in my earlier presentation that we're working very hard to get students enrolled in classes right now. And as I indicated in my earlier presentation, we're down about 20% from where we were a year ago this time. There's a lot of different reasons for that that we could certainly get into perhaps at a later date when we have some more time to discuss it. Some working theories we have. But I do want to say that, mid-July, we had to change our schedule and move everything fully online. Between our in-person classes, our online classes, and our remote classes, with a partnership with academics. Faculty did an amazing job reworking the course schedule. At the point at which we had to re-register students, our lowest point was above 40% down in enrollment, and that was in mid-July. At this point, as of today, I'm very excited to share that we are only 21% down in enrollment in both FTE and headcount, and that's institution-wide. The reason I share that with you primarily is because we've been working on an enrollment challenge across the SACE division, where we've all dug in and started reaching out to students who maybe hadn't filled out an application, but were in the middle of filling out an application, students who reached out and wanted additional information but didn't fill out an application, students who maybe took a semester and stopped out, also students who were in the process, were enrolled in spring or summer and then hadn't yet enrolled in fall. So I'm really, really proud of the work of the folks in the SACE division and the call campaigns. We've made over 2,000 calls to students in the last month, and I think that our data is certainly showing that. We are anticipating additional enrollment from our high school students and concurrent students in the coming weeks as they adjust to different state mandates. And trying to understand how to make their schedules work for their high school students as well. The other thing I would share with the board in terms of just a quick update, I included it in my highlights, but as you are all thinking about going out into the community and supporting Dr. Bornstein and the college with the strategic plan, one of the things we've been trying to get across to folks is that Ames is open in person, we're open online, and we're open remote. So we can kind of bend and weave and serve students in any way that they feel most comfortable. And so that's a message that we're really working to get out to students and potential students. Any questions or thoughts, highlights about questions or comments before I move into the president's strategic goals?
I would like to say 2,000 calls is a lot of calls to make. So congratulations on bringing it from 40% to 20%.
Thank you. Great. Okay. So as we move through to the 2020-2021 CEO President's Goals, I'd just like to share a couple updates for you. So this year we're going to be working on redesigning and streamlining our one-stop services. And our one-stop services are conceptualized as exactly what they say, one place where students can go and get served. I would note that this strategic plan item has been bumped up 1 year because of the amazing work of our Assistant Vice President, Aaron Prestwich, and his go get 'em attitude. So we're really, really excited about that. We'll see the one-stop launch in pilot form this October. And right now we're working on training for our employees to ensure that the students who visit the one-stop either remotely or virtually or in person have a meaningful experience. The second goal that I would share with you is line item AC on that little handout you have in your packet with the stool. And this is our continued work on guided pathways. Both Dr. Rothermer and I have our folks who are working diligently on the guided pathways piece. Additional focus will be, as he indicated, really focused on night courses, online courses, and some different scheduling that will work for the different pathway courses. Third, we're continuing to work on opportunities to positively impact the college climate, line 14 of the strategic plan. So I've talked to the board about this in our summer retreat, and I would just bring it up again that in October, we will be expecting our consultants, Rankin and Associates, to be working with us virtually to design a survey and really start doing the work around how is our college campus doing as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a lot of opportunities for us to explore how we can enhance what we're doing and make our students feel like they belong in a more meaningful way, as well as our employees and our staff. So very excited about that work. And finally, I would share that we are, in the list you have here, it says under G, develop and implement a college-wide retention plan, line 25. This is closely partnered with line 17, which is the strategic enrollment plan. And we'll be focusing on this as we move forward. It's a great partner with the work that Dr. Rothmer is doing in terms of the academic master planning. The strategic enrollment plan, as well as the retention plan, will really allow us to start understanding the programs that we offer, start understanding their effectiveness, and really leverage our data in a meaningful way so that we can be more strategic about how we would like to enroll our students, areas that we can grow, areas that we can sunset. So looking forward to that and the partnership with academic affairs in that realm. And I believe that sums it up for me and for the strategic initiatives that the SACE division and will be partnering on with the college and also leading on behalf of the college. So I am happy to stand for any questions if there are any.
I would just ask the follow-up calls that you make to those who have started an application and haven't completed it. And the goal there is to get them to complete it. Is there any offer to help, or, I mean, why didn't they complete it? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Students, what we've learned throughout the years, and this relates a little bit to my presentation earlier today, is that oftentimes as part of an educational experience, high school programs, not necessarily ours, but high schools, will have an assignment that includes filling out an application for college as part of the student's educational experience, which is great. And oftentimes in our service area, Ames is designated as one of those colleges because we have a free application. Many other institutions, you have to pay to apply. So what we find in some instances, in a lot of instances, is that students apply to Ames more for the experience of learning how to apply to a college, not necessarily because they have an intent to come to Ames. So that's one piece of it. So they may get halfway through and go, oh, not for me. What we have right now is an opportunity to really capitalize on students who maybe weren't thinking about Ames previously because of the COVID environment. And so we're doing some extra outreach to students who didn't complete. And yes, absolutely, Trustee Peterson, asking them if we can help, inviting them to an Ames 101 session, inviting them to come on a campus tour, a virtual tour, so that they can get a better sense of and feeling for Ames and what we can offer. Great question.
Good. Wonderful.
Anything else? Well, Dr. Weissgaver, thank you so much as always.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hope you all have a wonderful day.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah. So we have Dee waiting in the wings, Dee Schultz, who's our Executive Director of Human Resources. She wants to just let you know what she's going to be up to this coming year, so you can anticipate all that. She's wearing her beehive.
Good afternoon, trustees and Dr. Bornstein. My goal today is to have a very short report. I currently don't have any strategic tactics that are due this year. However, we will be working on some of our tactics. We'll be enhancing our professional development program, which will include a leadership component. And in collaboration with Council for Equity and Inclusion, we'll be working on enhancing our recruiting process. Just a couple of projects we'll continue to work on this year. I promised, short.
Short and sweet.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Dee. As Dee exits, Zach McFarland should be entering. And you met Zach earlier. So Zach is the Executive Director of Marketing Communications, and he was going to share some of the strategic initiatives he's working on this year.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody again. Thank you for the time. We have one line item, line 50, and that's implement technology to effectively enhance information sharing and storytelling. A couple quick highlights there. One thing we are working on is creating one system or purchasing one system for outdoor signage and indoor signage so that all of the systems are linked and we can more quickly and efficiently distribute messages via those means. Also talked about the website pretty much at length. The website is in here, and so we are working to complete that hopefully this fiscal year. One small anecdote I think is pretty cool. We did select an external vendor to come alongside of us and help us with that project. That is Ames Design Group. They're Denver based. And then two of those people, one is an Ames graduate who works for them and will be helping us with the website redesign. And then one was a former Ames faculty in the design department. So those are the only updates I have for this line. I'm ready for questions if you have them.
I guess I would just ask, you say you hope to have it done this fiscal year, so what are the odds, or where are you?
We have a very talented team on that project. I feel really good about getting it done this fiscal year. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, it should happen. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Sort of.
Yeah. Our initial goal was fall.
As much as you can. I mean.
Yeah, initial goal was fall 21. I feel comfortable saying late spring at this point is what we're shooting for. Our goal is to try to impact the next recruitment cycle to the best of our ability. Yeah.
It just seems like we've been working on that for quite a while. And
yeah, we have you think about our site, 10,000 pages of content that we have to rewrite, recalibrate, restructure. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's a lot of work.
Good people on it. They're very excited, an amazing team, and very encouraged by the progress on that project. Yeah.
How does each team member have a section to work on, or does
we have a web manager, so he's kind of Hunter Wilson. He kind of pulls the team together. We have a digital marketing strategist who's in charge of content. So she is Sil De Leon. She is looking at all of the content on the site and then pulling content authors together to kind of restructure that. And then we have a developer who works on the back side of the site, more the technical solutions, and then he pulls people in as needed for that. And then that contractor I mentioned, Ames Design Group, kind of project manages that for us and starts working on the actual design itself to make it look pretty and palatable to prospective students. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't want to bore you. I could talk about it all day. Awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Zach.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
You talked about it earlier today, your advertising, your billboards and all that other stuff. I just didn't find the time to say this, but I have found those billboards and stuff you folks are doing out there incredible. I don't know whether it's the color schemes or what it is, but I noticed, am I not on?
You're not on.
I notice that they catch my eye a lot more than they used to. So many billboards are just a blur, they're just in your periphery and everything else, but for some reason, whatever they're doing is genius, at least to me, because it draws you to them. I drive along now and without looking, I'll be visiting, doing whatever. Sometimes I'm even driving like I'm supposed to. But I just find myself looking and there's an Ames billboard. It's incredible. So kudos to that. They're very appealing and very eye-catching.
We appreciate that. Allison Byerly and her team do an amazing job, and I'm sure they're listening, but I'll pass that on as well. And I appreciate that comment.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
Have a great day.
So, comments from the president, strategic plan initiatives that that I'm leading up. You've heard me say it before. It's sort of throughout the whole 5 years. We're constantly working on our policies and procedures. So you will continue seeing those policies come before the board as we move those through. And that's the primary piece that myself and the cabinet are working on, along with College Council to get to you. So we're going to continue doing that, and we're going to be continuing to do that until all of our policies and procedures have been at least reviewed once and updated. So
then you'll get to start all over.
And then we have to start all over again, right? Exactly. So so that's the main piece, certainly from our office.
And that really works well, I think, when you do that and put the red lines in it. You know, it's all, you can see what work has been done, and then you can read the old policy and see what was actually changed. And then to include a rationale for that actual change helps me a lot. So, and to have them in our packets now, like what we did, get those done on the consent agenda is just very nice.
Yep. Yeah. Having those on the consent agenda, I think that certainly was different this month. But when it's not a new policy and it's maybe not major changes, then that's probably a good way to look to do it. Yeah. Thank you. So in your packet, you have the CEO President's Report. I'll just draw your attention to the dates because we actually haven't had an official board meeting since May. Those activities cover from after the May's board meeting through yesterday. So there's, while it doesn't look like a lot of lines on there, you'll see at the bottom, twice a week meetings with all the CEOs in the state, twice a week meetings with our cabinet all throughout the summer, and so forth. So if you have any questions about any activities that were happening over the summer that I can respond to, then I'm happy to do that. So.
I would just ask, Sarah this morning talked about how she's on different boards, and you are too.
Yeah, and they're listed in there.
Yeah, but do you get a chance to talk about Ames?
Oh, all the time. And I take the chance to talk about Ames, whether I'm given it or not.
Tell you to shut up.
They wouldn't say that, but I try not to take too much time, but
like
absolutely.
There could be a round table discussion or something.
Absolutely.
What's going on at your institution?
Yes. Yeah. And quite frankly, particularly now in this sort of pandemic environment when we're meeting on Zoom, the facilitators are taking particular time to make sure we kind of go around and everybody says something. But with regard to, I wouldn't say necessarily advocating for Ames, but certainly waving the flag. Ames is doing so many fantastic, wonderful things that really are innovative and I would say definitely leading edge, that it makes my job easy. So no matter what meeting I'm in, when there is an opportunity for me to jump in, I say, well, here at Ames, this is what we are doing. And then it gives an opportunity for folks to say, oh, well, that's a great idea. How did you do that? Or who can I touch base with? And within the Zoom format, there's something called chat where you can actually have a typed chat on the side that's not verbal. Oftentimes I'm getting questions about like, who can I contact about that? Or how did you do that? And so I'm responding that way. So I'm always talking about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And it's been great for other folks. And I've learned things too, to bring back to Ames and share with cabinet and college council. And they decide if they want to incorporate those ideas or not, or, yeah.
I just often thought, well, so you're on the board, if you sit there like a bump on a log, like that doesn't do us
doesn't
much
do
good,
yeah.
really. And so to have the opportunity to, you know, expound a bit on what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
It really makes sense.
I'm not shy.
That was a really dumb question.
No, it wasn't a dumb question.
If
It's
you
a,
ever
it,
get a chance to talk,
No, I mean, sometimes the meetings are, I mean, there's meetings.
Yeah.
You don't always get a chance. So
No, I understand that, but
it is a good question.
Yeah.
How have your meetings, your phone calls, Zoom calls with Governor Polis been?
Those have been more receiving information. Yeah, and they've been usually pretty quick, 15, 20 minutes, but it was, well, there was one on a Saturday actually that was about an hour, and that was, trying to remember if that was pre-phase 3 or pre-phase 2. It was one of those phases. And he was presenting what he was thinking his next executive order was going to be. And again, it wasn't necessarily a discussion, it was more of information sharing from his perspective. We do our information sharing at the Department of Higher Ed, and Dr. Angie Piccioni reports directly to the governor. So, and she's involved in facilitating our conversations. And so that's how the governor hears what we as higher ed as a sector are thinking and doing or are concerned about. So there have been lots and lots of conversations. In fact, it's been 2 times a week with those meetings until really just a couple weeks ago. Now we're at an every other, well, no, then we were at an every week, and now we're at an every other week meeting. So
This is with the other CEOs.
all the other CEOs in the state. Now they, again, up until probably middle to the end of June, it was all the public CEOs in the state. And then the privates joined. So it truly was the higher education sector in Colorado, because we all needed to share this information around what was going on with our institutions around the pandemic, mostly geared toward fall start, but you know, the community colleges had been going all along. So we were sharing information. Well, we're trying this, and you may run into this fall, and we've had to readjust, and, you know, sharing lots of information.
The commission, the Weld County commissioners, Ames welcomes there.
Yes, we, Lyle and I and Mike Millsaps, who's our Executive Director of Facilities and Operations, presented via Zoom that 7-minute architectural Zoom flyby, and we narrated it through and then answered questions that they may have of that project. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if your microphone's on or not.
That went, I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that went very well. I think the commissioners were very appreciative that we reached out to them and gave them an update on our facilities master plan and the new building and all that. It was very well received. So had some good questions. I think it's a good thing to do. And I got to say, at the risk of making more work for Dr. B, you know, we all sit on different boards and things like that. If you're ever in a meeting and somebody says, I wonder who we could get to come speak, because they love to do it. She really does. And our staff really likes to do it. They like to get out there and present Ames, and they love to do it. So, and they do such a great job of it. So it's a great opportunity to open the doors and make, you know, person to person or even virtual contact with people and let them know what we're doing. So great opportunities.
I'm just curious because I remember some, you know, rather non-supportive kinds of things at one time, and so, you know, it makes sense to make sure they know what we're doing.
We didn't get too many
Why?
questions.
Yeah.
I don't think we got any questions, actually.
Oh, we got a couple.
Oh, we did. We got a couple of questions, but
Yeah. Didn't get bothered with the aviation.
there was an aviation
Just
question.
just
Yes,
one.
there
Just
was
one.
Wanted to know when we were actually moving over to the flight training center, and I had and mentioned that we did that last August.
Wow.
So,
Where have you been?
yeah.
And he, I'm sure he maybe was invited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So
No,
that
it was all good.
It was all good.
Good.
Any other questions about meetings or anything? Before I move on.
Hey,
I think you also have in your packet the employee report, which shows you all of our incoming employees and our outgoing employees. And usually this is the time of year, certainly this meeting and next meeting, where the list of incoming employees is long because we're hiring for the upcoming year, new positions, or you may recall the summer is always the time in higher education where folks move around. So they may leave one institution and go to another. So you'll see this report this month and next month is pretty active. Also, typically, you may recall that we ask supervisors to introduce their new employees, and unfortunately in this environment right now, we're going to have to put a hold on that until we can actually figure out a way to do that in a way that is organized and makes some sense, and you can see some folks. So we'll see what we can do in the upcoming months. You know, our first and foremost priority is to keep us healthy and safe and physically distanced in appropriate numbers and spaces. So, but if you have any questions about that,
I
I'll
always
can
thought
answer.
that was very important to introduce the new board or new employees to the, you know, to where we could welcome them,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing. So, and I noticed on here that the aviation program must really be expanding. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least new
Yes.
employees.
Yes, and there'll be probably a few more next month. So those are instructional positions, and you may recall a couple of years back when we had presented the plan, it was a phased-in plan of how to grow.
Right.
So every year there's been a couple of hires and a couple of new rentals of planes, and last year there was a lot of plane rentals, and so these are the instructors now to get to that program, help to that program get to I know if Rob and Eric are listening, they might have a little bit of a panic, but certainly doubled. We talked about maybe even tripled, and I can just see their faces right now going, wow, what is she saying? But so right now, let's focus on double the program and certainly expand. And so, yes, you'll see we did some really good hiring to get that moving. So.
Yeah, great. I think what the goal was 10 planes or
it was actually 13.
Oh, what?
The goal was 13 planes, and one of them, I believe, is a fixed wing. I don't have all the data in front of me, but I know one of them is a fixed wing, and another one is an acrobatic. Maybe it's the fixed wing acrobatic, but I can get that information to you. I've got it in my office. I just don't have it in front of me.
Just curious.
Very exciting, very excited, and so this also fulfills, you know, our commitment to the aviation program as they were reinventing themselves and looking to certainly expand. Was not only the flight training center, but also the equipment in the planes and then the personnel. And so this kind of moves to not quite wrapping it up with a bow, but we're very, very close to wrapping that up with a bow. So, yeah. And that would
awesome.
conclude my president's report, sir.
Great report.
Madam.
Any questions of Dr. B that we haven't covered? No? Okay then. Well, it's on to the assessment of the board meeting. Any comments on that? Did we learn anything today? We always learn something.
We've learned a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. I thought we had a very informative session. I just wish we didn't have to do this. You know, just it's tough for me to hear often.
Yeah.
I just can't I don't think my hearing is what it used to be, and
No.
when you get into these,
No, it's a new world.
Situations why
It's something we're
just-
gonna have to get used to and work on, so.
yeah,
But with that in mind, I think it's really helpful to have the people, well, if they're not here, definitely on the screen to see them. Or, you know, even if they're on the screen, it's actually better because you can see their mouths.
right, right.
And then the agenda and all the paperwork on the computer. Because when I don't see them, I mean, I hear them, but I get much more out of the conversation when I can see them and I'm looking at the information. So, but I thought everyone did a great job reporting. Some of it was very quick because there wasn't very much to report, but that was very nice that they even, you know, came to the meeting. So I thought the budget was done well. It's nice to hear we're saving a little bit of money, unfortunately, but and I'm excited about your phone system going on the cloud. I mean, that's a huge thing, especially during this time.
So that's a good thing, huh?
Yes.
Always scares me to hear about going up into the clouds. Oh yeah, sure. And now everybody in the whole world's got my conversation. It's like,
Well,
I was very surprised because I thought he said, Zach, I think it was, that 70% of contacts leave a email address. And
Oh, yeah.
what he was saying was contacts of the direct college. And I'm thinking, I ain't gonna leave my address when somebody asks me to, unless I, want them to ask me for it. So anyway, that's just my craziness.
so I think we know what worked and what didn't work. I think we still need to work on, obviously, communications, hearing, and things like that. But, it's a new world we're in, and we're going to be in it for quite some time, I think. So I think we'll get better at it as we go. And thank everybody for their patience and understanding as we get through this. So,
And I think, Lyle, that's not staff's fault. That's equipment fault.
It's what?
It's equipment.
Yeah.
That's letting us down.
I think so.
Volume and, sometimes couldn't get the picture up there.
Yeah, and we all went through it. Sometimes it'd get louder and then it'd go down and you couldn't hardly hear anything at all. And I know people on the other end were doing their best to be closer to their mics, and so we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we focus on oversight, strategy, challenges? I think we always do. We do a good job of that. Our agendas are outlined very well. All the presentations are outlined very well. We get our packets, I think, in plenty of time to read through them and be familiar with the information. And that, I think, is going to be very, very key in getting through some of these challenges, being familiar with our packet when we come to a meeting, having read it and understood it. And then when people do present, I think it's easier to know what they're actually saying. And especially the way they're outlined, you can almost sit and read along with some of it. So that's going to be key. We certainly received the information. That's my opinion. Anybody disagree with that?
Oh, yeah.
We always do that. So, and I think everybody had an opportunity to speak. So overall, I think we did a good job today. So now we get to, that actually ends the regular meeting per se. Now we get to adjourn into executive session. So as allowed by Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-402, parent 4, parent F, the Board of Trustees may call an executive session as its discretion So I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for discussion of a personnel matter. No decisions will be made. We will adjourn from the executive session back into the regular session where we will adjourn the regular session.
I move we adjourn into executive session, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn to executive session. All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries. We are adjourned into executive session.